Alright guys, today I am going to talk to you a little bit about how to unravel the pieces of a sweater once you've unzipped the seams. In the previous How I Do It demonstration, I showed you how to unzip the seams of a sweater, but today I'm just actually going to show you how to unravel the pieces of the sweater once you get them to this point. It's actually pretty easy if the sweater you have hasn't been worn to oblivion and the fibers haven't kind of gotten fuzzy along the seams. Even though the sweater fiber for the most part will be really nice, the seams tend to be a place where the fiber gets really fuzzy, making this process a little bit more difficult. So I actually have this sweater right here that I'm going to be using for this demonstration. This is a cotton and ramie blend, so it's really easy to see kind of what I'm doing here, and the fiber is not fuzzy, so I shouldn't have too much of an issue with that. But to kind of stay true to the reality of this situation, I also have a couple sweater pieces that are from a fiber that has a little bit more of a fuzzy set of seams, so you can kind of see with these fibers what it might be like to unravel the pieces. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to begin with the cotton and ramie sweater pieces first. So we have a sleeve, back panel, sleeve, front side panel from this cardigan that we're going to unravel here. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing that you want to look for when you have your sweater pieces and you're ready to start unraveling is you want to find the bind off edge of the sweater. Now, most commercial sweaters are bound off using a crocheted chain bind off, just like the seams are seamed together. And so that makes this process really easy if you're already familiar with pulling the pieces apart by unzipping the crocheted seam, because you're really essentially going to do the same thing. There is a crocheted chain running along the base of the seam right here. I'm going to flip that up so you can see little V-shape stitches, and that's what we want. So we want to, just like if we're unzipping a seam, we want to find that little chain right there that we can snip. So we're going to take our scissors and we're going to snip the loop closest to the seam. Then just going to kind of pull this apart, and there we go. So here's my little thread right here, and I'm just going to pull that thread and unzip the seam, and there we go. Now we have some stitches that are ready to be unraveled. So we just have to find our end, which I noticed right here as I was unzipping the seam. So now we just pull our end and the sweater begins to unravel. It's just as simple as that. Just like you're unraveling your own piece of knitting at this point, sometimes it gets hung up in little knots that we've all experienced in our own work before. You just kind of have to manage those as you come to them. Okay, so you get the idea. Just look for that crocheted seam of one of your pieces. Unzip the seam just like we did in the first tutorial or demonstration on unzipping sweater seams. Look for your end and begin unraveling. Okay, so I have a sleeve from another sweater right here, and the reason why I'm going to show you the same technique with this piece is because this is a different fiber. It can tend to get a little fuzzy around the seams, and so I just wanted to show the same technique but with a different material, just in case your sweater more closely resembles this fiber than it does this super easy to work with cotton ramie fiber here. So let's go ahead and look at this one and see if the job is the same for a sweater with this kind of fiber. Okay, so same thing. I want to look for that bind off edge, and I see that we have one right here. You can see it's a nice clean seamed edge, and if I look closely I can see the little V-shape stitches that are running along the seam here, so I know that I have a crocheted bind off. So just as if I were to be unzipping the seams of a sweater, just like I was showing with the previous sweater, I want to find that end, and so I'm going to come down to the one end of the piece, and I can see that the tail is starting to, or that chain is starting to stick out right here, so I want to pull it all the way to the end of the piece. So there is my chain. Okay, so now I want to snip this chain, and something's telling me that this may be the wrong side to start. It looks to me like that may have been the wrong side, because when I pull on this strand, it doesn't unzip, it tightens. And so that tells me that I probably should come down here and try the same thing over here. And what do you know? The chain is sticking out right here. I'm just going to pull it free completely. And yes, this is the right side to work this on. I feel like had I looked at either side and pulled out the little chains that were there, I could have figured that out. So just keep that in mind. Check both sides. It's usually the one with the longer chain that is the one where you want to start. So let's go ahead and snip. Okay, throw that out, and then I'm going to start separating. And there we go. There's my thread that I'm going to pull to unzip the little bind off seam. Oops. There we go, just kind of gets caught. So you can see that the fibers in this particular sweater are going to catch on one another a lot more easily, more readily. So you just kind of have to be prepared for that. So there that goes. And now I have my open stitches ready to be unraveled, as you can see here. So I just have to find my end, which popped up as I was unzipping that. And you can start pulling and unraveling. So let's see that again. This time let's talk a little bit about how to determine the right side to begin unzipping the seam. So as I mentioned, you could look at either side. So you could look over here and see, okay, does the chain come out of this end easily? When the chain does come out, do I have enough of a chain to snip? There is a chain on this side. It's not completely free, so I'm gonna use my scissors for this to pull that part out. So there's the chain on this side, and I'm also going to go over here and pull free the chain on this side, and then I can compare to see which one looks like it's the one I need to be snipping. Okay, so this is what I noticed. And this is what I noticed on the other pieces that I started to unravel. You'll notice here that I not only have a chain coming right here, but I also have this extra strand of yarn. This strand of yarn is the one that I'm going to pull to unravel the sweater. This is the chain that I'm going to snip to unzip the seam. And so this tells me this is where I begin my unzipping of my seam. Okay, so I pull that free, and then I finish unzipping the seam, and just like the other one, it's going to get caught because the fibers like to catch in sweaters like this. Okay, so pull out that seam, and then there is the end that's going to be used to unravel this piece. Alright guys, so that's how I go about unraveling my sweater pieces. I really hope it helped. I have a huge mess that I need to clean up here and lots of yarn that I need to wind so that I can use it later. So I will see you guys in the next demonstration and how I do it segment.